we have a channel in my Discord where you can post your own horror stories. So I'm gonna go to the Discord server right now. I actually haven't shared this one before, despite it happening a long while ago. These are actually two small ones. The first involved a game master who ran one campaign one week, the other week. Tyranny of Dragons one week, Curse of Strahd the other. Now, Curse of Strahd is a cool campaign. I ran that. I don't even own Tyranny of Dragons. Basically, there were several red flags from this game master and the players. The game master made us roll for stats, and there was a huge disparity between character stats. Well, duh. Okay, look at this. This happens every time you roll for stats. Anytime you roll for stats and don't use point buy or standard array, there's always going to be a disparity. And especially if you don't have them roll for stats in front of you while you're watching, because there are some players who will just magically have super high stats. It happens. So you got to watch them roll for this crap. But this is always going to happen when you roll for stats. There's always going to be a disparity. That's just the nature of it. And the game master complained about the fighter after giving him favoritism with powerful magic items. You stupid. Okay. Look it. I did this once. I once gave a paladin sorcerer Splash who had a shield and everything and a high armor class. I once gave him a cloak of displacement. He was nigh unhittable. But I fully recognize that that was my fault. I did that. It was on me. I did not blame the character. I didn't blame the player. I like jokingly complained about it. You know, Dalinar was unhittable and all this kind of stuff, but I knew it was my fault. It wasn't the player's fault. Like, duh. And the game master mocked his players with long descriptions when we missed an attack. I mean, there's a playful way to do that. I do this sort of thing. Wait a second. Is this story about me? Hold on a second. No, because I haven't run Tyranny of Dragons. Okay. There's a playful way to kind of rib and poke fun of your players when they miss attacks and do other things. I do this all the time. Look at. This is, I don't know, maybe I'm just weird this way. But this is how I show, like, you know, that I like somebody, affection, camaraderie, and things like that. You know, it's like when you're ribbing them, the poking of fun at the thing, like they do something stupid and then you're kind of making fun of them. Like, for me, this is like how, like, I don't know, it's like you do that to people that you like, but in a playful way, right? And I have actually gotten in trouble. People have gotten upset at me because they can't properly interpret the playfulness, right, of me, even though I'm like kind of being playful and smiling and stuff. Anyway, it gets me in trouble. So I have to be careful of who I make fun of because they don't understand that I make fun of them because I like them. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, the game master joked consistently about killing our characters in Tyranny of Dragons. I joke about killing characters all the time. This story is about me. This person changed some of the things to make it. Who is this? This person was in my game. Oh my gosh, I gotta figure out who this was. I joke about killing characters all the time. You ask any of my players. You ask my Ancient Dragon players. They're my patrons who play D&D with me. You ask them every single game session. We start out with a prediction. Like my wife and I have this custom where before every game that I run, I will ask my wife is, you know, before the game starts, I'll be off with my wife and I'll ask her, should I kill them or not today? And my wife always tells me what I should do. Like someday, like, what was it? We had a game on Easter and she was like, no, don't kill them because it's Easter. Okay. And then I had a game after Easter was over and she's like, well, you know, Easter's over. So yes, kill them all. You know, so we'll do this thing where she gives her prediction of whether I should kill the characters or not. And then before my games, you know, at the very beginning of the games, I'll tell my players, well, guys, it sounds like tonight you're all going to die because my wife has predicted that tonight I should kill you. And so I have this little tradition and things with all my players and my wife where I jokingly talk about their deaths. Now, the irony is that when my wife tells me to kill them, they all survive. And when my wife tells me not to kill them, that's when people are in trouble. And so it's this, I don't know. Anyway, it's cool. And I joke about killing characters all the time. It happens fairly rarely, except in my Pathfinder 2 game. It doesn't happen quite as much anymore in my Pathfinder 2 game. It did at the beginning. When we first started running, they were dying left and right. It was like, blah, 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 blah. But now I've kind of figured things out a little bit better, and I can modulate the death. But I joke about that all the time.
Oh, by the way, check this out. Layers and Legends and Loot and Lore are finally back in stock on the DM Lair store. Layers and Legends has nearly 400 pages of content for you. Look at that, nearly 400 pages. It is packed full of adventures and monsters. Look at this list, this crazy long list of awesome monsters you can use in your game. And we have a total of 27 adventures, except that some of them are adventure arcs, so it's even more than that. Awesome maps to use in your games. And also we have, look at that, read aloud text, role-playing notes, encounter notes. We thought of everything when we were designing these adventures to make them easy to prep for and easy to run at your game sessions. And check out these monsters. Here you have astral outsiders with beautiful artwork and, of course, stat blocks. And some nice spicy devils to use in your games. Some new dragons for you. Loot and Lore has over 300 pages of content as well. Check this out. Here we have adventure ideas, encounters, patrons and factions, magic items, NPCs, puzzles, who need some puzzles for their games, random encounters, random tables, spells, subclasses, traps, villains. So head on over to thedmlayer.com to get these two big fat beefy boys. There's enough content here to fuel your 5th edition games for years to come.
Shouted at one of his players. Yeah, I don't like that. I swear this is about me. I did shout at a player once. I remember one time I shouted at a player. This player was, well, the player shouted at another player. The player was getting really upset at another player about something. And so I got upset with the player who was shouting at the other player, and I started to shout at that player. And so I remember that, and I did not like that behavior on my part. And so after that game session, this was like a couple years ago, so I don't remember if I apologized to the group or not. I just don't remember. But I do definitely remember thinking, okay, Luke, you lost your cool with that player. Don't do that again. You got to be calm and collected about this stuff, right? So I remember I did shout at a player once, and that did not sit well with me. So I gotta remember not to do that crap. But he was out of line. He was out of line. I don't know. Maybe some people will justify it based upon the situation, but I just remember that that's not how I like to treat people. And so even if it was justified, I don't want to shout at people. Okay, also, as a player, he would talk badly about the GM and other players to me in private DMs. I've never done that before in DMs. So I'm pretty sure this might not be about me. Unless this is a red herring. This might be a red herring to throw us off topic. It might still be about me. Oh, there's another game master. Okay. So maybe this one's a different game master and it's not me. The next game master was running a campaign for us. He didn't read the book, didn't prep the maps, and leaned on me to handle all the tech. Had me use the fog of war for him, etc. Yeah, this is... If you're running a campaign, you have to read the stupid campaign book. You know, you have to do that. What an idiot. You gotta prep, man. I remember, so I was talking to, one of my friends was telling me once he was invited to a game by another game master. We'll call the game master Evan, random name. And let's say my friend's name was Timmy. So Timmy was invited to this game with Evan. Will you quit trying to bite me? Like, why? What do you have in the brain that makes you want to bite me? Why? I'm gonna bite you back one of these days. You know that? You big fluffy bucket. You're such a baby. And then he goes right back to biting me. I'm gonna bite you. So Timmy went to the game with Evan, right? And Evan Evan was one of those game masters who boasted about not needing to prep for his game. He's like, oh, I don't prep for my games. I never prep, and my players love my games. I run these games and they're awesome. I don't do any prep. He was one of these no prep boasters, right? And so Timmy was in his game for 2 game sessions, maybe. And then people stopped showing up because the game sucked. And then Timmy came back. This is funny because I knew Evan as well. And so I remember Evan doing all of this boasting like about not having to prep and stuff, because I'm a huge advocate of prepping for your games. The more prep you do, the better your game is probably going to be. And so I remember Evan boasting about not prepping, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I was like rolling my eyes internally, right? And then as it so happened later on, Timmy joined his game for a couple game sessions and then later told me, yeah, his games suck, dude. His games totally suck. You could tell that he was pulling everything out of his butt. The games were super slow too, because he had to improvise everything on the fly. Things just crawled along because nothing was prepped. It took so long. There was like no action. It was crazy, boring, and stupid. And so we all just stopped going. So yeah. Anyway, that's a tangentially related story, I believe, about a non-prepper. Okay, and then back to the story about the game master who didn't prep the module. The NPCs were flat and just bags of meat to hit. When it came to the baddies, the NPCs we interacted with bland. He was constantly flipping through the book looking for things. Yes, okay, check this out. So like, when I run a module, my goal of prepping for the module is that I do enough prep so that during gameplay, I don't need to refer to the module too much. I certainly don't look things up, right? There might be read aloud text that I read, or it might have a list of loot that's in a room. Of course, I'm gonna read that. But like, I try to minimize how much I reference the module itself and while I'm running the game. That's my level of prep that I go for. And so I once had a game master who was running Curse of Strahd for us, and he was flipping through that book like a madman constantly, just looking stuff up. You could tell that he probably didn't prep that hardly at all. And that is not how you run a module. Like, I have a video on my channel that talks about how to prep for a module, the things that you do to get ready to run a module. And that modules aren't an excuse not to prep. They give you pre-made content by professional writers and game designers, theoretically, that you can then prepare and run at your game table. It probably reduces your prep time and then gives you something really cool to do with your players, but it doesn't mean you don't prep and can't prep. That is not how you run a module. Anyway, he got snappy when a lot of us dropped out of the game and snapped at a person who said they were skipping because that person's cat had died. Well, you know, okay, let's just be honest. Like, the number one sign that your game sucks is when your players start leaving. Number one sign. Like, a lot of people, a question that a lot of people have, or a problem that a lot of people have, game masters, they'll say, well, my players keep leaving my games. Why do my players keep leaving my games? How do I get my players to stay? My players always have problems with scheduling. They always have all of these things that come up, and my players keep leaving. And I have said it before, like, if your players keep leaving your games, the problem is probably not them. You need to look at making your games better. Making your games things that the players enjoy and have fun at, because then they're going to figure out excuses to come to your game instead of doing that other thing. Besides which, we all know that a lot of these excuses people come up with are just excuses and they're not actually true, you know? But in our polite society, people don't just literally say, hey, you know what, your game's not that good. I'm not gonna spend 4 hours every week at your game because it's not that good. So I'm just gonna bow out. Thank you, I appreciate it. No, people make up polite excuses to not come to your game. But if your players are leaving your games, number one thing you can do to get better retention is to make your games better. If your games are awesome and amazing and they love being there, they will figure out a way to be at your game. They will. This cat is licking himself. Check this out. Squeaky, what are you doing there, buddy? We're on live stream. I'm licking myself. It's like, that's not appropriate. Why did you do that? But you're just licking yourself on my live stream. I was off camera. That wasn't nice. That was not nice at all.